Virtualization concepts are the key to the subject I will be discussing today, which is thin clients. The reason this is so is because virtualization moves the focus from the client, from your desktop or laptop, into the data center, back the way it used to be 20 years ago. Now, basically, we are proceeding with changing the role of the operating system. Right now, the operating system sits on top of your hardware, on your desktop, on your laptop, and the application sits on top of it. We are now inserting between the hardware and the applications and the operating system a new concept called a hypervisor. I will be discussing the full implications of that move shortly. What it will mean that virtualization will allow you to take a device, a processor, and start hosting a variety of applications and operating systems on the processor. And in that environment, create conditions where suddenly the processor, the data center, becomes available to a multiplicity of applications. Perhaps the best way to represent the economics of what we are talking about is to look at the client-server environment where servers were largely dedicated to an application. Because of the very low utilization and very peaky utilization, we are moving into an environment where suddenly extremely powerful processors are able to multitask a large number of stations. And that is really the economic key to what we're talking about. It is really driven by the fact that the chips that are being produced today are vastly more powerful than the chips that were in servers that were dedicated to an application. The basic idea behind the thin client is the idea of moving processing and the operating system and the application out of the thin client device, which is nothing but a screen without a disk, into a network connection which provides services to the thin client. Let me sort of restate what this means. It means that until now we have always provisioned the capability of an operating system and application to a client. In other words, machines that sit on your desktops or below your desktop were your personal machines. And when operating systems or bugs or fixes had to be made, your machine had to be provisioned from a central source to reflect the latest configuration. Under the simple client environment, the idea is not to provision machines, but to provision people. Let me repeat that. Not machines. We are provisioning not machines. We are not provisioning your particular desktop. We are provisioning you as a person. And you as a person can today work at your desk. Tomorrow you may be on an airplane. You may be moving around using a smartphone. You may be using a workstation. The idea is for the network connection server to recognize where you are so that you can move around. Basically, the simple client virtual configuration is an approach to deal with a highly mobile workforce. And it's the mobile workforce that then enables the thin client environment. There is many ways of configuring it. There are external devices where you will come in, for instance, with a smartphone through a filter, through security devices, and then into your mainframe environment. Or if if you are on an internal environment as a client device, you can then connect to servers and share applications, which are now stacked on multiple machines. From a conceptual standpoint, we are really dealing here with a change in where the application logic is hosted. The application logic is not, by and large, accessed anymore through a so-called fat client. They are being accessed through thin clients who then get whatever they need when they need it from machines that do multitasking. In that environment, it makes it possible to create a virtual desktop. The virtual desktop can be on a big workstation. It can be on a phone, a smartphone, or it can be on a laptop. The important thing is you can run on your desktop or laptop devices and programs from multiple virtual machines which sit back in the data center. And therefore, you can convert an existing physical PC into a virtual machine and create new virtual machines from scratch. That means that a person may own 5, 6 virtual machines depending on their personality. The computer will recognize the context under which you operate. By the way, from a security standpoint, this is very key because the mainframe back office will recognize whether you are exposed to a risk. For instance, if you're a soldier in a Humvee in Iraq, your privileges as a user will be severely restricted as compared when you sit behind the desk and a big Dell computer in the Pentagon. So much of the direction for moving towards risk is driven by security. The idea then is to view every device, whether it's a smartphone or a Dell big configured workstation, to represent a complete PC, and the PC may have some processor, some memory, or none of it. In other words, the 5 or 6 machines that you own basically are configured to you as a person, and you then take advantage of what the network provides. Now, we are able then to run Windows, Linux, and a host of other operating systems side by side on the same computer. For instance, I'm sitting in front of a Mac computer here. I'm running Vista, and I'm running Mac operating system without any interruption in Windows, which are side by side. This means that from an operator standpoint as an individual, you own an unlimited number of machines in unlimited number of forms. This is very important from the standpoint of legacy system because you can then switch between legacy systems, which I will be discussing in a moment, and systems which operate in a current operating environment. You can switch between operating systems instantly with a click of a mouse, share files between virtual machines. And again, let me repeat, as an individual, you may own dozens of virtual machines providing different set of services. And it is that interface between the services which allows you to operate in this environment.